What are stems? Why should you use them? And how do you use them? Stems are tracks of audio imported from a mix. It's typically going to be guitars, bass, drums, vocals. It can be anything from a drum kick to an entire drum set. Stems are typically pre-mixed from a song or composition. They're a good way to learn the individual sounds in a mix so you can learn how to get there yourself. To give you an example of how this helps, if you just start mixing and you're given guitar DIs, bass DIs, a drum set, vocals, you can listen to a reference and know what you want to sound like, but there's no individual frame of reference to actually get there. If you have stems, there are well-produced reference of individual tracks that can show you how to mix more intentionally. I provide stems for most of the mixes that I work and collab on the Rock and Metal Creators Discord, as well as on my Patreon if you want to get them individually. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to show you how to download the stems from the Discord so we can drop it into a DAW. Man, I feel like I'm in a candy shop. So many to choose from. I'm going to pick the Further Eden one that I did with Baker Belts and Ben Riffs. Ben Riffs, fantastic guitarist on Instagram if you want to check him out. And Baker Belts is an amazing drummer, singer, and pretty much everything, also on Instagram. So what I'm going to do is click the Google Drive link here, and then I'll just download them all together. All right, now that they're all downloaded, I'm going to drop them directly into the DAW that I'm working on. So this is Reaper. First, I'm going to drop the tempo embedded MIDI file. That's going to change the tempo of your project to align with all the different WAVs. As you can see, it changed the tempo to 169, baby. Now that I've got that set up, I'm going to drop all the other ones in. As you can see, looking like some audio, baby. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute all of them one by one and just kind of figure out what we're working with. I'm going to drag the drums to the top because visually it makes my brain not hurt. We've got processed and DIs. What that means is for a DI, that's going to be the direct input of your guitar or bass. And with the process files, that's going to be files where all of the processing's already been done. So it's been through an amp, through an IR, and all that jazz. I'm going to put the processed ones on the top first. Drums, bass, guitars, vocals. And then I also provided the bass DI, Ben's DI, as well as my DI. So we'll go through and unmute these and see how they sound. So that's what the mix sounds like without any master processing. I usually like to do a good amount of compression, limiting, distortion on my master. So this is a pretty clean bounce of all the individual stems. If you're new to mixing, you can listen to these individually to get a good idea of how the final master sounds. So if I want to solo out the guitars here, same with the drums. I also include the master if you want to hear the bounce with all the mastering on it. Alright, lastly, I did provide the bass and guitar DIs. That's if you want to learn how to shape a tone with the original drums and vocals in the mix, or if you want to learn how a bass is shaped around guitars, or vice versa. So first I'm going to mute everything but the guitars. Now I'll show you the plugins I'm using on the guitars. I've got Fortin on for the gate, and if I want to transpose, it's also got a pretty helpful tuner on it when you're tracking. I'll also use the Omega Granifier. I use the overdrive on this occasionally, but I really prefer to use like a precision drive analog gear or something like that. And I am not using any IR in this plugin. The IR that I am using is with the GGD IR loader, and I'm using a custom IR in there. And lastly, I've got an IR DX Core plugin. This is kind of something I use to put on the cap, and it makes it a little bit brighter. So this is what it sounds like solo. So that's just my guitar. Now I'll hard pan that left and put Ben's on right and copy over the plugins. So this is both of us now. Worth noting again, these are live performances, so this isn't the quality that you would release to an actual song, but it's pretty good and it serves the purpose of learning how to mix and work on tones. Now I'll show you the bass plugins. So I'm putting these plugins directly onto the bass DI. It starts with Drumforge Excite. This adds a little bit of saturation to the DI before I run it through other things. Then I've got a preamp kind of doing the same thing with a little bit more color. I'll run that through a compressor just so I can balance the volume a little bit before it hits an amp. And then I'll run that through Parallax. Parallax is my favorite bass plugin for modern heavy tones. There's like a billion different things that'll work though. And this is the bass in solo. right, now just the bass and the guitars. And you can pair those with the original drums. Alright, so now you know how to use stems. If you like those, I'll be uploading more stems every week. If you want to join the Rock and Metal Creators Discord, there's a link in my Patreon. Deuces, I'm out, bam!